If you watch any kind of basketball, you likely know that the current MVP race is between two players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder and Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets. Shai is an electric scorer leading the best team in the league, but he's far from the only threat that the Thunder bring. Jalen Williams was an all-star this year, and with Chet Holmgren blossoming into a star in his own right, OKC is a team that can cut you from multiple angles. You can't key in on just one guy, and that's what makes them so dangerous. The same can't exactly be said for the Nuggets. While Denver is still ranked in the top 10 depending on tiebreakers, their offensive system relies almost entirely around Nikola Jokic. Sure, on paper the stats might show multiple weapons, but if you're actually watching the games, it's clear, Jokic is the offensive engine. Without him, the team is a net negative on offense. Every offensive set, every moment of control, it all flows through him. Now, if you're reading Blue Lock, this dynamic probably sounds familiar. Two teams, two star players, one operating within a team full of offensive options, one as the sole focal point, the foundation of an entire system. But of course, it's not a perfect 1-1 comparison. Nikola Jokic is a selfless, pass-first player, while Barou is the definition of an ego-driven striker. Meanwhile, Shidou isn't even the best on his team, as that title belongs to Hitoshi Rin. Still, the core debate applies. Is it harder to score when you're the sole focus of your team's offense, with everything built around you but defense is locking in on you? Or is it tougher to score when you're part of a team full of offensive threats, where touches are limited and you have to shine without being the only option? That's what today's video is about. We're diving deep into Barou versus Shidou and asking the big question: who had the harder job in Blue Lock and who deserved the bigger payday in the Neo Egos League? Being the only offensive weapon on your team can have benefits. You get the full attention of the system, your teammates play around your strengths and help mask your weaknesses. It's built around you. That's essentially Barou's case in Ubers. Everything revolved around getting him the ball in the best possible scoring positions. The upside, you shine when the machine works. The downside, defenses can zero in on you. But unlike other sports like basketball for example, soccer doesn't let you leave a player wide open and just gamble on them missing. Every goal counts way more. That's why most soccer teams make sure to at least have a side threat. In Ubers, that's Shidou. He may not be a constant force, but his mere presence means you can't just completely ignore him and throw every single asset at Barou. Now let's look at what happens when there are multiple offensive threats. It gives a team more flexibility as defenders can't just key in on one person. A perfect example, Kaiser's goal when he accepted being the second option. Isagi had the upper hand in that moment and Kaiser capitalized on the defensive shift. That kind of balance is what made Kiora Jin's entrance such an important moment. PXG couldn't track every player in the field, which gave him a window to assist Kaiser. Of course, once PXG adjusted and started to mark Kiora, he was shut down, but that brief moment of being overlooked made a huge impact. On the flip side, Shidou, despite being an elite scorer, has to constantly share the spotlight with Hitoshi Rin. His raw numbers were always going to take a hit because of that. Additionally, the way their team played reflected this. PXG had to try different formations for Shidou and Rin, rotating who the main focal point was. In a way, this actually makes PXG sometimes similar to Ubers, especially for Shidou and Rin. But even when Shidou was the focal point, it was only for a portion of the game, and same vice versa with Rin. You can argue that this makes it kinda difficult for Shidou Ryusei to have some consistency and really get into a flow. Unlike Barou, who the moment he decided to play for Ubers, had the system revolve around him. Now here's where things get tricky. Blue Lock isn't a real sport, it's a story. That means characters get spotlighted for plot reasons. Shidou had a top defender tailing him, pretty much to get him out of the way for a matchup between Hitoshi Rin and Isagi Oichi. Barou, despite being the main offense for Ubers, wasn't clamped down, so we could focus on him versus Isagi. The matchups were crafted to push those narrative arcs, not necessarily to reflect tactical realism. After all, if Raichu was able to at least slow down Mark Snuffy, even if it was a little bit, don't you think he would have been able to put a lot of pressure on Barou? Or if Kunigami, for example, who actually was shown in the past to be able to slow down Barou a lot. It's pretty obvious that the story wanted us to focus on Isagi's development with his metavision, and have the clash between Isagi and Barou force an evolution, and while this is great for storytelling, again, it doesn't really reflect tactical realism. So, who really deserves it more, Shidou or Barou? Well, let's consider some factors that people often overlook. First things first, team record matters. While the NEL was ran alongside Blue Lock, the club managers weren't concerned at all with Blue Lock's ego philosophy. They wanted players who could win in a team context. That being said, PXG was undefeated with the exception of their match against another undefeated team, Bayern Munich. In terms of Ubers, they finished an okay middle of the pack record. Secondly, stats in context. Barou may have scored 7 goals in 3 games, while Shidou scored 4, while either splitting time with Rin or only being the main striker for about half a match. That makes his 4 goals arguably just as impressive depending on how you slice it. 3. Availability and adaptability. Shidou is always ready to play. Whether you build a team around him or throw him into chaos, he's going to get his. Even playing alongside Itoshi Rin, someone who he's notoriously bad to play with, he still finds his way to score. Now for Barou, let's not forget, he almost sat out the NEL because he just didn't agree with Snuffy's vision. And while we the audience were able to see him in the second selection learn how to play with other strikers, club managers don't have that context. What they saw, which was broadcasted for the world, was a player who initially refused to play unless the system catered to him. Even back in the U20 game, his goal was a lot about catching defenders off guard. That unpredictability might only work once, or maybe it doesn't. Club managers aren't really ready to take that gamble. So, when it comes down to it, you can make a case for both. Barou, a dominant solo act with the numbers to back it, or Shidou, a lethal scorer who delivers even when the system isn't built for him and can come into the game at any moment. But at the end of the day, that ultimately depends on what you guys think. After all, a story can be interpreted however the reader decides, and I really want to hear you guys' opinion on this, so please go ahead in the comments and leave your opinion below. Full disclosure, I feel like the community was really leaning a lot on Barou being robbed, so this video may have been a little more sided on Shidou just to really give an alternative point of view, but I just want you guys again to just leave your comments below. Please subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it, and have a good one.